Celeste, a game about climbing a mountain and collecting strawberries, and nothing else. One of those strawberries stands above the rest of them, the winged golden strawberry. For those who don't know, the winged golden berry is found at the end of Chapter 1A if you haven't used any dashes the entire chapter. This is, obviously, a bit harder than completing the chapter normally, and I want to see how far I could get into the rest of the chapters without dashing, and if it was possible to finish any of them, even if there wouldn't be another collectible waiting for me. Before we start that though, let's take a quick look at 1A and see what it takes to complete that chapter without dashing. 1A starts off relatively simple, with every jump either being inherently pretty easy or having a very consistent setup which makes it easy. That is until we get to this screen. If you've ever done 1A dashless, you probably know this jump as the first major hurdle in the run. At least it always is for me. Most of my dashless runs have more than half of their time on this screen alone. Okay, never mind. Turns out I'm actually pretty good. Not at all, just luck. The rest of the chapter, though, is actually easy. A little tech here, a goofy jump there, an editing software to remove all my deaths allow us to collect the winged golden berry. So with the intended dashless chapter out of the way, we should move on to the rest of the game to see how much we can beat. First, let's go back in time, to the prologue. This may seem easy at first, free even, as you don't even have the dash unlocked yet, so of course you don't have to use it. But at the very end of the prologue, you do unlock the dash, and the game doesn't let you press any button other than dash. Well, dash and pause, where you can skip the cutscene through the menu and move on to the rest of the game. Yeah, well, the prologue's free. Then you go to 1A, as previously shown, and then we proceed to 2A. Now, 2A's mechanic is dream blocks. Blocks that you travel through when you dash into them, and that causes a problem, obviously. The whole point is don't dash. How far can you get without dashing? But, as it turns out, the dream blocks aren't even what require us to use the first dash in the chapter. The first dash is actually to break this weak wall. Before dream blocks are even unlocked, 2A is kind of brought to an unceremonious close. This also sets a standard for the rest of the chapters. Now in 3A, we can actually make it pretty far into the chapter. As long as you consider making it into the resort pretty far, because that's about as far as we can get. Obviously, once we make it into the resort, we can talk to Oshiro without dashing, but the next room, once again, stops us. This block is just a little bit too high. Even with perfect subpixels, I've been told it's 1/4 of a pixel too high to grab. So I guess we're moving on to Chapter 4. 4A. First screen, pretty easy, and second screen's impossible. Starting to notice a pattern here. Maybe 5A will be better. Now in 5A, we immediately run into what looks like a bit of a problem. How do we squeeze through this gap? Crouch slide. Turns out Madeline retains a bit of momentum when crouching, when first crouching that is, and when stuck under this gap, jumping moves us in the correct direction. We can easily move on to the next room, which is really easy. The room after that, however, we run into our next big issue. There just seems to be no way to get to this bubble. And it would be impossible if it weren't for a new bit of dashless tech. C-Pops. C-Pops are a precise trick that allow you to jump underneath the bottom corner of a wall you are sliding down. This allows us to reach the bubble without dashing. Of course, none of this really matters. As soon as we get to the next screen, after the bubble pops, you guessed it, it requires a dash, and it ends 5A, right after we learned new tech. 6A introduces, among other things, feathers, which, despite my general disdain for them, don't actually require any dashes. So for this challenge, so far, so good. Or not. These feathers inside bubbles require a dash to collect, and they are, in fact, necessary to progress with the stage. Yeah, feathers really don't have any redeeming qualities, do they? I can't imagine that we'll be able to get far in 7A. They just gave us a second dash, so not using either of them seems improbable, to say the least. And would you look at that? Both dashes immediately. Well, technically only one dash is needed, as there's a subpixel setup you can do to just barely clear this first jump, but it's still one dash, and that's one more than 0, so 7A is a bust. The epilogue, on the other hand, is easy. Not really a chapter, but it's still on the chapter select screen, So we count it. It's basically just a cutscene. Cutscenes don't require dashes. Free chapter. We take it. On to core. This chapter already limits your dashes, so sure, let's limit them more. Kind of the whole premise of the video, though. Not just for core. Anyway, core's first room is, well, this. And let me tell you something about this room. It seems impossible. But, who would have guessed it, dashless shenanigans allow you to get through it. However, unlike the other rooms with dashless shenanigans, this one is tough. The other rooms took me maybe 20 minutes before I got through. But this room, after an hour and a half, which admittedly is not that much for this trick, but I still hadn't even made it past the first jump, and you need to do it 3 times in a row. But just when I was about to call it a day and say, hey, I'll come back to this jump tomorrow, this happened. That's right, 3 in a row. Couldn't even get 1 before. So was it just luck, or did the practice finally pay off? Neither. It was neither. This room is the room that made me learn how to task Celeste, which is actually really fun. Yeah, so a robot did that. And you may have seen this one coming, but it doesn't matter, because the next room, you guessed it, requires a dash. Marks the end of 8A, and we will move on to Farewell. Also, for what it's worth, anytime that a segment is tasked, it'll have the little robot icon in the top right corner. Not to say that I can't do it, but just to say that I didn't. Farewell, the final chapter. Don't check the video length. The start of this chapter is very easy. You just walk over to the grave. After that, though, there's nothing we can do. I guess it's time to say farewell to Madeline being on the screen. In case you haven't noticed the pattern yet, though, usually a chapter either has nothing you can do, or it starts with one cool thing you can do, and then there's nothing else, and you have to dash. And yeah, Farewell's no different. Even though we can fly up here, complete this second screen, we need a dash. And that's no way to end this experiment? Yeah, let's call it an experiment. We're heading to the B and C sides. Before we do that, though, wait, don't leave, it's not a call to action. I'm just going to rapid fire all of the B and C sides where you can do almost nothing. Then I'll go through the ones where you can at least make some progress. In the following chapters, you need to either dash immediately, or, at most, can walk a little bit before needing to dash. 2B, 2C, 3B, 3C, 4B, 4C, 5B, 5C, 6B, 6C, 7B, 7C, 8B, 8C. Yep, yeah, that's basically all of them. The only B-sides, or C-sides, where you can do much of anything are 1B and 1C. So can we beat them? Let's find out. 1B actually has some interesting jumps we can make, particularly these 2-in-a-row reverse corner boosts. And after that, the next few rooms really aren't that hard, though I did task the third screen to save some time. When we come to the 5th screen, we run into an issue. This conveyor platform is, as far as I can tell, impossible to reach without dashing. So it seems like 1C is our last hope to have another true dashless chapter. Let's load into 1C. Okay. That seems unlikely, to say the least, but hey, let's give it a try. Or, more accurately, let's have our robot friend give it a try. Would you look at that? Turns out, through the use of corner boost, a double corner boost in this case, the first screen is actually possible dashless. But as it has been, so it will be. The second screen's impossible. Doing all this has made me wonder though, if it's not possible to beat most of these chapters without dashes, how many dashes do we really need? That's not this video though. Next one, maybe. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Remember earlier when I said that wasn't a call to action? Well, this is. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you liked me, sorry, I'm not available. But isn't that subscribe button? Doesn't it just look so clickable? No? Sorry, one day I will write a normal call to action. It's not today, though.